Hello, ladies, gentlemen, children, adults.
I hope
morons,
there are no children listening to this.
Intelligent people, servants, I don't know, butlers, maids, race car drivers, all of you, welcome to Blueshirt Bandwidth. I'm your host, Joe Fortunato, joined by my co-host, Eric Cohn, a man of few words. He'll have even fewer today because there's nothing to talk about.
There really isn't, is there?
Eric, I'm glad to be here with you. I don't know, 96th episode of the show.
That's correct.
I can think of 2 Rangers who wore the number.
There are 3.
I don't think I'm going to get this. Roslovic, obviously.
Jack Roslovic in 2024. That is 1.
Emerson Etem,
I was wondering
old Joe favorite.
Yeah, I guess in that sense, I should not be surprised that you got it, but I was wondering if that was the one you weren't going to get.
If I remember correctly, there was a player who wore a 90s weird number last year, maybe 2 years ago, but I don't remember.
End of last season.
Oh,
trade deadline acquisition.
Was it the guy from Buffalo?
That's right, Nicholas Abe-Kubel.
Yes. Wow.
Yep. 3 Rangers who wore 96, Etem, Roslovic, and Kubel. Neither of them were there for an entire season. Yeah, the Emerson Etem thing was, that's one of those old, frustrating, why don't we just play the guy kind of stories.
Yes, just one of the premier examples of the Rangers traded for a guy, and then it was as if they never heard of the guy they traded for before. Those are the peak Alain Vigneault years, though. So truly a game-changing idiot, he himself. Speaking of idiots, $85 a year gets you all your ad-free access to the New York Rangers at BlueshirtBandwidth.com. You can read articles written by all of us. You can also ask questions in the question thread. You can ask questions in the question thread if you're a member of our community tier, $40 a year. Get you access to the Discord, get you access to the question thread. Question thread that Eric puts up every single week. Now, Eric, you put a question thread up, and I believe we have an opening question.
We do indeed have an opening question.
By the way, I got 0 reactions from our end of podcast conversation last week. Like 0 people reached out, which I'm a little surprised about. But
I think that tells you one of 2 things. Either the fall off in listenership as one continues through the episode was so steep by the time that we got to that there were only like 4 people left watching. It's kind of like how cable news only has ratings as high as it does because it is perpetually on in nursing homes and no one can get up to turn the channel or change the channel. Similar situation there, that of like the 10 people left at the end, I think they were all probably so debilitated by what they were hearing that they were unable to do anything afterwards. Like, Joe, the end of that podcast might be responsible for at least 1 death. I don't know that we can.
It was almost my death from witnessing the horrors that I witnessed, which, by the way, if any of you are confused or concerned, I proved to Eric and Chip that it was true.
Well, yes,
so
that is the even more traumatizing thing. That
it is a real
apparently
thing.
Yeah, you apparently not only walked into... What airport were you at, by the way?
LaGuardia.
At LaGuardia.
Which is normally the best of the circumstances. Like, JFK is a nightmare. LaGuardia is usually fine.
No, I've been saying for a while now that, like, if you went into a coma 15 years ago and woke up and someone showed you LaGuardia Airport now, you would not believe that's where you
No,
were.
you would
Like,
not.
again, as someone who has not lived in New York City, I still remember flying into and out of LaGuardia, where I'm pretty sure that there were separate security screening lanes for the rats. So it's kind of impressive what they have done at LaGuardia.
It
But
really is.
again, I am amazed that you had the composure after walking into a bathroom stall and seeing a catheter to take a picture of said catheter that you then, of course, did send to Chip and I, which I will admit that my favorite part of last week was Chip pointing out in the description of the podcast episode that it ended with and the worst thing that Joe has ever seen in an airport bathroom. And I think Chip was preemptively horrified by the prospects of what the hell that might be.
There is a person I work with that travels almost as much as I do. And we will often share circumstances that occur in the airport. And sometimes we travel together and sometimes we don't. And but the ruling is actually the ruling that we finished the podcast with last week, which is jail or no jail, right? So I think I told you last week, I saw the guy at JFK who put the toothbrush in the sink while he was brushing his teeth.
Yeah,
jail, straight to jail. So my coworker is somebody that I give this information to and we discuss. I took the photo for him as like by the way, I'm going to tell you something. You're not going to believe me. Here's what it is type moment.
Yeah.
And yes, that's why the picture was there. So I did not save it to my phone, actually, believe it or not, but it was saved in my conversation thread with him. And that was what I took to give you guys. So that is what that was. But yes, if you want to know the worst thing I have ever seen in an airport bathroom, and I'm telling you don't, go back and listen to the podcast. It'll be great.
There'll be a new special subscriber tier that we will call the airport catheter tier, where Joe will send you the picture of the catheter he saw in an airport for subscribing at that level. I really don't have anything, and as you know, I travel a decent amount for work. I really can't think of that many things that I have seen like that in airports.
That was the worst. So
definitely. I don't even know that I have anything that holds a candle to it. That the one thing that eternally drives me insane is the number of people in airports who are suddenly struck by the desire to stop walking and stand like a fucking statue in the middle of the terminal walkway without recognizing that if you're going to stop walking, get over to the side. Get out of the way of the people who are trying to walk through the airport. The amount of non-recognition of other people around you in an airport is truly astonishing to me.
People lose their mind. Like, airports are meant for civilized men and women, and those people just don't exist at some airports. I'll give you another story that's not nearly as horrifying, but it will make you angrier. I witnessed a woman, I believe this was also at LaGuardia, but this one could have been JFK, have a small dog with her in the area where you wait before you get, at your gate. And she had a wee-wee pad on the chair next to her, and the dog was sitting on the chair. And I was like, all right, a little weird, but like maybe she's doing it in case the dog pees or something. The dog shit on the wee-wee pad, and she just let it happen. Like this was a normal thing. And then she just balled that shit up, threw it in the garbage, and like went about her day. And I was so like, if it was LaGuardia, and I think JFK too, have areas where the dogs can go to the bathroom. It's got a fire hydrant and everything right there. So that one made me mad. Really mad. But, whatever. Anyway, that should have been, we gave you the dictate. Be a little wilder. You can loosen up a little bit with the opening questions. We'll see if you came, if you came through or not.
Our opening question comes from 84 Jorts,
He's been
who
on a heater.
asks, opening question, what food could you eat a respectable amount of for an eating contest? He says, I feel like I could eat a good amount of popcorn provided it's not too salty or buttery.
What do we consider a good amount of?
That is left undefined.
Like, my favorite restaurant in New York City, where I'll be going tomorrow, by the way, which is why we're recording today, is a place called Pietro's. And Pietro's has a chicken parm that is bigger than my head.
Mm-hmm.
It is the greatest chicken parm you will ever eat in your life. If I really wanted to, I think I could put down 2+ of those. If I really wanted to. Like, I would be ill. It would not be good. I'm limiting myself to, like, hot dog eating contest rules where if you throw up, you're out. I think I could get 2 down without getting sick.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to drive home. I would need to be, like, injected with something.
Yeah.
But I think I could get away with that.
They're going to need to bring the jaws of life into the building
restaurant
in order to get
off.
you out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, I see where you're going with this 84 jorts on the popcorn thing, which is something that is, you can eat a lot of because it is not too filling. It's light. It decompresses its size.
Yeah, like a respectable amount of popcorn would have to be pounds of popcorn.
It'd have to be like one of those giant buckets that you get at the movie. So, Joe, at these places called movie theaters, they have popcorn that you can get, and you can get them in enormous sizes.
I went to the movies recently, actually. Saw the Mario movie with the kids.
Well, there you go. It would have to be like one of those jumbo bucket type for us to take it seriously, I think. Ray does interject here to say bacon, and this is the only correct answer in his opinion. And I tend to agree with that I think I can eat an enormous amount of bacon. But that also, the problem that comes in there is similar to the one that I think Jorts was raising, which is if it is too salty, you are just going to be just dying for water. And I don't know what the rules are in terms of what kind of liquid and rehydration we're allowed in all of this. But if we're going with just kind of a more common food, like I can eat an enormous amount of pasta in a sitting. It is just one of those things that I am content to overeat with and do, in fact, need to watch if there is, it's family style serving that I don't eat the entire thing. I think that is probably how I would answer that question. But yeah, I see the theory, at least behind the popcorn answer. I think we're getting out of like the eating contest area with something like popcorn. I think it needs to have a little more substance and a little more heft to be an eating contest level food.
How much bacon though? What is a respect? Joey Chestnut puts down like 56 hot dogs? What is that in bacon? Now, I know you're not going to reach that level, but we're saying respectable. Like, if I went to a hot dog eating contest and I had a respectable amount of hot dogs, is 10 a respectable amount of hot dogs?
I think for an average person, I would say 10 is a respectable amount of hot dogs.
So then,
actually, I think the phraseology is entirely wrong here. Outside of eating contests, I think if you just went to someone's backyard party and you ate 10 hot dogs, I think that is an unrespectable amount of hot dogs.
Correct.
It's an alarming amount.
I reject
of hot
the
dogs.
phrasing. It goes back to a question that I love, which is if you saw X number of owls over the course of the day, what would X need to be for you to start being concerned, right? And I think I've asked you this question before, and I think we've said between 2 and 3. 1 owl is cool. 2 owls is okay, what's going on here? 3 owls, I'm asking many questions. And yeah, if I'm at a party and someone's eating their 7th hot dog, I think I'm just calling the police.
Yeah.
They're going to
Jail.
come anyway with the ambulance. So they may as well just arrest this person. So like
more than 7 hot dogs is jail.
Like bacon is what, 3 packs of bacon?
Yeah, I think we would probably be
That's a lot of fucking bacon.
It is a lot of bacon. Yeah. I think the last time you brought up the owl thing too, I also probably brought up it was from a Far Side comic strip, anatidaeophobia, which is the fear that somewhere, somehow a duck is watching you. But yeah, I think it's similar thing. Like, if you saw, I agree, like 3 or 4 owls in the course of a day.
4 owls, I'm killing myself. 2 owls, I'm definitely concerned. 3 owls, I am for sure like on high alert. 4 owls, I'm in full-fledged panic mode.
Yeah, I think there's one other point I want to put here too, which is like the framing of certain foods really matters for this as well. Because if I said to you, Joe, would you like to eat 2 dozen tortillas? You would think that I was insane. But if I said I'm going to quarter them and fry them, you would ask if you got free refills.
Correct. Do you want 10 pieces of fried cheese?
Yes.
Or mozzarella sticks. It's the same shit.
Well, it's a pack of string cheese. You eat an entire pack of string cheese. That's insane. Okay, what if I deep fried it? You would ask if there was marinara sauce that you could dip all of them in.
Yeah, then I'm in. I'm in.
Yeah, exactly. So the form that the food takes, the preparation of it, makes a considerable difference to it.
I'm a huge believer, like Pietro's, which I cannot recommend enough. Go to Pietro's. Eat at Pietro's. You're gonna love it. The meals are so big that I will not eat it all tomorrow just to prepare myself for the meal. So sometimes you need to like do that in life, and that's fine. That's okay. I will eat a non-respectable amount of food tomorrow, but I don't know if it would count for like this, situation.
I just want to say that I'm both like amused and a little disturbed that you described the way that you're preparing for this meal a little bit like you were preparing for a colonoscopy.
First of all, I will repeat. I've said this before. I will say it again. It is the greatest sleep you will ever have in your life. If you have not gotten a colonoscopy yet, get one. It is worth your time. Go get a colonoscopy. First of all, it's good for your health. You should do it for health reasons. Second of all, it is the best sleep you will ever have, ever in your life. Do it.
The next thing Joe is going to tell us is that the last time he had a colonoscopy, it was in a bathroom
in a
at LaGuardia
bathroom. All right. And the guy was super nice. He was. Really nice.
Sure he was.
Yeah,
I'm sure he was. Do we want to do the ombudsman report now?
Let's get Charlie's bitch ass in here, and then we will.
We're gonna see if we have anything to talk about, or maybe we just go straight to the mailbag.
I think what we've done so far is we're killing time. Like we're 18 minutes in, we haven't talked about the Rangers at all. That's a trend.
There's not much to talk about,
people. I promise you.
Well, we'll get a little bit of it in here for the podcast Ombudsman Report for Blueshirt Bandwidth, episode 95, where, of course, every week Charlie listens to the podcast and tells Joe and I everything that we get wrong, starting with Ohio. During the introduction, Joe said that Eric is in the beautiful state of Ohio. Ohio is not beautiful.
I knew this was coming.
Yeah. I am also not a big Ohio enthusiast. That is because I live in the state of Michigan and I am required to hate the state of Ohio. The
Correct.
More amazing thing is that, of course, the modern manifestation of the fight between Ohio and Michigan is in college football. And when Michigan and Ohio State play, I cheer for the sweet meteor of death. But the fact that the original source of this is they fought a war over Toledo. Over who got Toledo, which Ohio got it, and I don't know how to say who won there. Anyway,
I mean,
Joe's henchman. While reading the Ombudsman report, both Joe and Eric were confused by my joke that Joe's henchmen would be taken out by heart disease. To clarify, I was calling Eric and myself to a lesser extent fat.
Is the suggestion there that the two of you are my henchmen?
I believe that is the suggestion, and also the suggestion is that we are fat.
Well, I mean, I'm fat, so I'll tell another work story today. There's another person that I work with that I was speaking to today who informed me that he played football in college. And he's in his 30s now, like mid-30s. He's 200 pounds, maybe soaking wet, who was like 325 pounds in college. I would never, ever, ever guess it. So maybe I don't take Charlie as a big boy. Maybe he is.
He's a tall boy. He's not a rotund boy. So two things. One, I used to work with a guy who was known as Big Lou, and he was like a stick. And I was wondering, like, what the hell is the Big Lou thing about? And he's like, oh, I was like 300 pounds in college, and I saw pictures, and it's like, oh, holy shit. Well, I mean, good for you. Jenny Craig. That was the way he got there. Was Jenny Craig?
Is Jenny Craig still around?
I guess. I don't know. Like, I imagine that a lot of those things, like GLP-1s, have probably, if they haven't put them out of business entirely yet, then like that, they're definitely on the path to extinction if they don't adapt their model somehow to comport with a world in which people are using GLP-1s. The other thing that I was going to say is that the way that you said I am fat, all I could think of was the doctor and Family Guy doing the shtick, and is like, oh yeah, he's just really fat. Whoa.
This is news to me.
Podcast length. While getting to the Q&A segment, Joe said that, quote, we're 34 minutes in and we're already on to questions. We might be out of here in under an hour. The podcast was an hour and 34 minutes.
Yeah, he's not wrong about that. Although, to be fair, Charlie, how do you not spend so much time? Eric's grandmother puts cream cheese in her fucking lasagna. I just choked talking about it.
Well, we're getting there. Just hold on. We're getting there.
All right, good. He better put her in
Multi-sport athletes. Eric talked about Jeff Samardzija as one of his favorite college football players of all time, who went on to have a successful career as a pitcher for the Chicago Cubs, Oakland Athletics, Chicago White Sox, and San Francisco Giants. Eric said that Samardzija would have been a third-round pick, but at the time, Mel Kiper Jr. suggested that Samardzija would have been a mid to late first-round pick. The other football player turned baseball player that Eric talked about was Drew Henson. Henson was drafted by the Yankees with the 97th pick in the 1998 draft, but decided to play football for the University of Michigan. After finally winning the starting job as a junior in the year 2000 and leading the Wolverines to a Citrus Bowl victory over Auburn, Henson accepted $17 million from the Yankees. Henson never proved himself to be a major leaguer, going 1 for 9 in 8 MLB games before pivoting back to football, where he would spend a few years as a backup QB for the Dallas Cowboys. My favorite sports conspiracy theory is that noted Ohio State football booster George Steinbrenner essentially paid Michigan's quarterback $17 million to quit playing football before the 2001 season. This investment paid off when the 6-4 Buckeyes upset the Wolverines in the final game of the regular season to cost Michigan a share of the Big Ten title and a trip to the Rose Bowl. I love that conspiracy theory. That's fantastic.
I'll tell you what, I'm glad we're talking about conspiracy theories. The Bill Simmons, my favorite Bill Simmons trope is Conspiracy Bill. Conspiracy Joe's going to come out a little bit on this show, I think. I have some theories.
All right. I'm already ecstatic. Volume versus quality of shots. In response to a question, Eric and Joe discussed the Rangers' shot quality and quantities. Last season, the Rangers did not take a lot of shots, and when they did shoot, they weren't especially good at it. The Rangers ranked 31st in shots taken, but only 14th in shooting percentage. This combined for the Rangers to finish 27th in 5v5 expected goals per money puck. This was fewer shots than the Rangers had in either of the Laviolette seasons, albeit with a slightly higher shooting percentage. As you can see from the chart below, the Rangers have not been a team that shoots a high volume of shots, but it has not translated to high levels of 5v5 goals. Of course, both could be downstream from the fact that the Rangers aren't a good puck possession team. And finally, lasagna with cream cheese. This is a war crime or a cry for help from Eric. And that concludes the Ombudsman.
He's right. Like, you have to realize how insane this is. We're just not responding? This is what we're doing?
No, I have nothing to add.
All right. Well, I guess that's just the way it's going to go then. So, all right. Eric, is there anything to talk about?
I don't think so.
Like anything to talk about. I don't think there's a single thing to talk about.
The only thing that I'll be honest with you, and people who are listening probably already know this, the only things that I have really had to talk about today all have to do with Major League Baseball. And Chip and I actually recorded a bonus podcast episode about whether or not the Dodgers are bad for baseball, as well as some thoughts on the Yankees trade deadline moves or lack thereof.
You gotta.
So I've gotten that out of my system already.
That's an emergency bandwidth. You got to throw it up there.
Yeah, you will be probably saddened to learn that we tried to come up with names for what this bonus episode would be, and we came up with Yankin' the Pinstripes,
which is fine.
Yeah, it is okay-ish, and I think it was Pinstripe Shirt Yankwith,
which is also fine,
which I think is fantastic, but Chip did not appreciate as much.
Either way, it is it's an emergency bandwidth, so that's fine. Answer me this question, though, because I can't figure this out. I'm assuming the Yankees were buyers.
Kind of.
Were the Mets sellers?
Yes.
So the Mets are like out of the playoffs.
The Mets are terrible. They're one of the worst teams in baseball.
So Juan Soto's really made a great decision by going to the Mets.
I mean, I'm thoroughly enjoying that.
Sure
I would love nothing more than 15 years of him not winning anything in Queens. I would find that incredibly enjoyable.
Can't he opt out or something? I don't know enough about baseball.
Yeah, I think there's an opt out probably at some. Most of those contracts have opt outs at some point. We'll see what happens there. The Mets absolutely were sellers. I don't think that they did particularly well in any of the returns that they got for any of the pieces that they did sell off. The Yankees were buyers, but again, people who have listened to the bonus episode have already heard this. They added 2 players. They added Luis Garcia Jr. from the Washington Nationals, who is a pretty good acquisition, but is a first baseman, and they already have 2 first basemen. So it's a bit of a question as to, it's a great bat to add to the lineup, but where and when are you going to play him? And they also added Helio Ramos, or Elliot Ramos. It looks like it's spelled Heliot, and I guess it's pronounced Elliot. Elliot Ramos, who is an underwhelming strikeout-prone outfielder that really just says that to me that the Yankees don't think Aaron Judge is coming back anytime soon. But they had needs at third base, shortstop. I said they need another outfielder. Okay, so they went and got another outfielder. I don't really love their choice for all of that. And they traded a bunch of bullpen depth away too, and didn't really replenish any of the bullpen depth. So they were buyers, but they didn't really buy all that much. It's all very frustrating.
All right, that sounds wonderful. Well, you've answered my questions. All right. I guess the things to talk about is more Braden Schneider and like what the Rangers play. I don't know. Here's where Conspiracy Joe is going to come out, though.
All right.
Eric, the Vladislav Gavrikov is unhappy with his decision to come to the Rangers. Is not really going away. Is it possible that part of the reason the Rangers have not moved on yet from Braden Schneider, and maybe didn't move on from him at the draft, was because they traded for Dorofeyev, and now they are seeing if that was enough to keep Gavrikov happy? And if he were not happy, they would need to have Schneider, because then they would have a bigger problem because they'd be down 2 defensemen then and potentially have to rush up Albert Smits.
Yeah, I don't know, and I'm unpersuaded by that. I think on multiple counts.
I'm not completely persuaded by the Gavrikov doesn't want to be here anymore.
Yeah, I'm not persuaded about that either. Like that was always one of those things. Is like I heard several places and could not really determine the provenance of. And I don't know how much I invest in that, other than to say that I'm sure that he was, Artemi Panarin played a non-zero, and in fact, probably it was a reasonable factor in Gavrikov's decision to come to New York. And of course, him not being here anymore, I'm sure he can't love that. I'm sure he also didn't want to sign a place where the team was going to be quite as doggy doo-doo as they were last year.
They were doggy doo-doo.
And they were indeed. I'm unpersuaded that he really is. I think if he really were wanting out, I think he probably would be gone by now. It's not as if there wouldn't be a market for Vladislav Gavrikov.
He's got a no movement clause
contract. Yes, he has a no movement clause. But like, if he's the guy who really, if his priority is not being in New York, I think it would have to follow from that he would be pretty open to waiving that to go to better situations.
Yeah,
I think there would certainly be a deal for him because he is on a very good contract.
The rumor was that he wanted to go back to LA, which is where we've talked about the fact when this came up that there's just not a lot there in LA and there's nothing for him. That the Rangers would be able to get back for him, basically. And I don't know. This is Conspiracy Joe. This is not a fully baked idea. This is just
but let's stipulate that Gavrikov does or did want out. I don't know that I buy the Braden Schneider part of that either, because as you noted at the end there, I don't think that they would really have any qualms if their defense, if the roster of defensemen that they had was thinner than it is, about Albert Smith starting the year in New York. I don't think.
I just don't think they wanted to force it. I think they would be totally fine with it happening. I don't think they want to make it a need rather than a good situation. Like, I maintain, regardless of what Drury says, and he's answering the questions the right way about Albert Smith, the Rangers should not force him to play at the NHL level. Absolutely not. If he's ready, great. If he isn't, okay.
No, agreed.
But if let's just say Gavrikov and Schneider are gone, right? Let's just play that out. Gavrikov actually does want out. The Rangers trade Schneider at the trade deadline. Next thing you know, Gavrikov wants out. You get him out. You don't get another defenseman back. You are kind of in a position now where it's probably Smith's. Now, arguing with myself here and playing devil's advocate, Matthew Robertson kind of doesn't look like he's got a spot at this point. Urho Vakanainen would still be sitting around. So, like, it's not necessarily the worst situation from a defensive perspective to have both of them leave. I think the Rangers, that's just from a numbers perspective. Obviously, the Rangers would want Gavrikov to be here. He's the best defenseman of the group.
Yeah.
And I'm also not completely persuaded that this New York Rangers team is worse than LA. If anything, I think this New York Rangers team is better than LA.
Agreed.
And I don't know what Gavrikov would get by returning to LA.
Yeah, I think it's more of a comfort and familiarity, and he goes and he gets to be with Artemi Panarin again, at least for 2 more seasons.
I find it so hard to believe that
apparently
Shesterkin has no sway here, and Dorofeyev, you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't...
I'm agreeing. Again, I want to be clear. I am agreeing with you because I don't think that there is all that much to the Gavrikov once out stuff, or at least I just have not seen, other than that being something that was repeated a lot, that there's a whole lot of legs to it. So, I am in agreement with you on all of that. I just think even if you were to take Gavrikov out of the picture there, I think the Rangers have enough in the way of defensemen, even before you get to, we have to push Albert Smith. The Albert Smith starts the season with the Rangers becomes a guarantee rather than something that he could potentially earn, that it necessitates keeping Braden Schneider around. I'm more on the count of, I really don't know exactly what they're doing with Braden Schneider, other than that they don't know what they're doing with Braden Schneider. I think the time... In a way, I'll liken this to some of the problems that the Yankees have right now. They sent down 2 players yesterday after the game. They sent down Anthony Volpe and
wild,
Jason Domínguez.
Haven't people been complaining about him forever?
Yes, because he's not good. And Jason Domínguez, it looks like there still might be some potential there. He's a switch hitter, but he's only really good from one side, and he just cannot play defense in the outfield. And like those, you go back and you look at like the top 5 prospects that the Yankees had in 2022, and basically none of them have panned out. And they would have been in a much better situation if they would have traded from really any of those prospects at that time in order to add to their roster, in order to bring better quality players on there in the whole mystery box versus the boat kind of means of analysis here. I think this is just very much the same situation with Braden Schneider, where Schneider has value. I think the value is diminished. I think they think, or that they're hoping that this, and this is other people's theory, not mine, that this 1-year contract that they've signed him to makes it easier for them to trade him. I hope that turns out to be the case. I hope they. We've talked about this before. I don't see the logic there, but okay, fine, so be it. I'll accept that is the theory that they're operating on, and I will hope that they are right. I think they just missed the boat on the point in time where you could trade Braden Schneider, and it's gotten too far down the road, and now you've got a sunk cost problem that I was like, well, he's not worth what he used to be. But I would still contend that trading him for whatever you can get for him right now is probably just about as good as you're going to do. I don't know what he would have to do this season, and I don't know what he'll have the opportunity to do this season that is going to improve his trade value that much. So,
well, that's the bigger question, because as it lays out, he's the 6th defenseman. And it's kind of not even close. He would actually not be the 6th defenseman. If he was Matthew Robertson, he'd be waived at the end of at training camp and preseason. But he's not. He's Braden Schneider, a former first-round pick, and a guy that the Rangers have signed to a contract. Again, you and I disagree a little bit on the 1-year deal, and I think it keeps him under team control for another team that wants to trade for him. He's 24. He's a right-handed defenseman. There's value there that I think teams will look at the Rangers and be like, well, they suck at developing players. Let's see what we can get out of them. I think the Capo Caco situation in Seattle doesn't help that argument, because I think teams point and they're like, yeah, you said the same thing about Caco, and look at what's going on over there. But I'm less persuaded.
What's the Caco case here?
That if you're making the argument that the Rangers suck at developing talent and you can fix guys,
and nobody's been able to fix Caco.
What he's done in Seattle is like, well, maybe not.
I think the way that a team could potentially talk its way around that one is like, Seattle is the living, breathing definition of mid. Like, everything about them is mid. Their development is mid. Their player selection is mid. They like middle 6 players are almost all that they seem to be interested in acquiring. I think you could talk yourself around it that, the team that got him is also pretty incompetent. And I think there's just a lot around the league of like, only we can save him kind of mentality. Maybe this is in some part motivated reasoning, because I would just very much like to be done with the whole Braden Schneider experience, but I would have much preferred to see his RFA rights traded to another team and that team figure out whatever they want to do with him than the Rangers to sign him to a 1-year, $5.5 million deal on the theory that makes him more tradable, which again is the part that I don't quite get why him under a 1-year, $5.5 million deal makes him more tradable than his RFA rights to sign him however you would like.
I want to make it clear, I don't think that if the plan was, we'll sign him to a 1-year deal and that'll make him more tradable, I think that's wrong. My argument is just that by the time it got down the road to the point where it did, whether Chris Drury missed the boat or there weren't offers out there for him or whatever it was, the best option was to not go through arbitration, sign him to a little bit more
I agree with that
contract. That's my argument. If Drury was thinking in April, all right, we're going to get through the offseason, we're going to get through the draft, and then we're going to sign him to a 1-year deal because that'll make him more that I don't agree with.
Yeah, I guess the only part of that I would still dispute is signing him to avoid arbitration. I can get that part of it, but I guess I'm unpersuaded, and we're never going to know the answer to this, so it's just going to be conjecture. I'm unpersuaded that whatever will be on the table as a trade offer for Schneider between now and the trade deadline is in any way going to be meaningfully better than whatever may have been on offer for him prior to him signing that contract, prior to him filing for arbitration, when you could have traded 2 years of his RFA rights. I
It may
don't
not
know
be.
that the difference is going to be all that pronounced, which just, again, brings me back to I don't know what they're doing with Schneider because I don't think they know what they're doing with Schneider.
Yeah, fair. And he's certainly not going to a circumstance that's going to be beneficial for him in any way, shape, or form. So it's not like the Rangers can pump him up with top 10 minutes or top 4 minutes, excuse me, and be like, oh yeah, here you go. Look, everybody, you know what I mean? Like that's simply not happening. So I think that's something that the Rangers are going to have to work with. And to your point, maybe it is the sunk cost fallacy for them, and they're throwing good money after bad. Maybe it's they don't know what to do, and this is the best option of what's on the table, which is also possible. So.
I think we also got to throw in here too, if we're like counting defensemen. We also did not mention in there Drew Fortescue, who is of course also around, and they've got guys like EJ Emery as well, who are just in the offing. Like they are. You can debate the quality of the prospects that they have on defense, but they certainly have a volume of defensemen right now that I just don't think necessitated jumping through hoops to keep Braden Schneider around as some kind of backup plan if Gavrikov really did demand to be gone.
Sure. All right, that's the only Ranger topic I have, Eric. So you either got to come with one, or we better hope that people did a good job with questions.
Well, let's go to the questions and see what we got there.
This is bad.
This
is ominous.
Yeah, I mean, it is the beginning of August. Actually, we are closer to the beginning of the season than I think you may realize, because we actually tomorrow, we're talking on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we will have the first of our player previews series coming out. Joe Veleno will be the first one that you will read. That will be up on Monday, of course. You're listening to this on Thursday, so you already know that. But we're already into the part of the summer where we are doing player previews. So we're closer to the regular season than you may think. So hopefully we'll have some more topics to talk about soon. But for now, we'll go to the questions. We shall start with Chris55. I'm sure Scott Morrow was talked up a ton when he was drafted, much like Fortescue, Emery, and Smits are now. What's the secret in going from bright prospect to dud?
Like, what's the Rangers' secret sauce?
I think you could extrapolate it out more to the NHL. I mean, there are plenty of other highly touted prospects that have not panned out.
I'll answer the question from a Rangers perspective, since this is a Rangers podcast. The Rangers are unbelievably good at talking themselves into what they want a player to be. And if he is not exactly what they want him to be, exactly the second they want him to be it, they just move on. If you're not a big, historically, bruising player, you are not going to be given much rope by the New York Rangers. Matt Rempe has been given leash that no prospect in my lifetime has been given. And okay, I guess the other thing, and this is a harsher reality to live with, is the Rangers historically do not draft well because they draft guys for the wrong reasons. They drafted Lias Andersson because he was a known quantity with a high floor and a little bit of a lower ceiling, but he's ready to compete right now. Absolute dud. They drafted Vitali Kravtsov because they fell in love with this KHL playoff series that they had. Absolute dud. Dylan McIlrath over other players. I know I got a lot of shit because the real player that they should have drafted was Cam Fowler rather than Vladimir Tarasenko, which is fine. But again, the Rangers historically have made selections for the wrong reasons. I maintain and will continue to maintain, the best thing Chris Drury ever did for this organization was fire Gordie Clark and his team. And Gordie Clark and his team would have never selected Gabe Perreault, ever. Now, Gabe Perreault fell in the Rangers' laps. If Bill Guerin didn't do Chris Drury the biggest favor of all time and draft Charlie Stramel would be a New York Ranger even if Gabe Perreault was on the board. I'm not disputing any of this. But Gordie Clark and his team would have never drafted Gabe Perreault, ever. Too small, no thank you. We'll move on to the next guy, and the next guy would be a fucking name that you've heard of only because we're talking about, oh, look, the Rangers passed on him to draft they passed on Gabe Perreault to draft this idiot, which is the story of our lives. So, like, yes, on some level, the Rangers are bad at drafting. They're bad at developing. And most importantly, the Rangers are bad outside of the first round. Like, all of these teams, I'm not suggesting you're going to get, Nikita Kucherov in the third round routinely. That is a very rare outcome. But outside of goaltenders, because the Rangers had Christ himself incarnate as their goaltending guru, there's no real, oh my God, the Rangers have been pulling these guys. Like if you go down,
this is a first round talent that the Rangers got in the third round,
or even just a guy in the third round that turned into something. Like go down the list of Tampa Bay in their prime.
They're insane.
There's a lot of fucking third and fourth round guys there that are impact players for Tampa Bay. There's some first round guys too. Don't get me wrong. But if I'm not mistaken, Braden Point was also a third round pick, was he not? Or maybe a second round pick?
Yeah, second or third, I think that's correct.
So, the Rangers have none of those. The Rangers' second round picks are like Will Cooley, and that's fine. But I would argue that Will Cooley is one of the most successful picks the Rangers have made in the past decade.
Yeah, that was
Braden
not a Point, third round pick. Yeah, Braden Point, third round pick.
So that matters too, unfortunately. It's bad drafting, and the Rangers gush you up on like, oh my God, you're going to love Dylan McIlrath. He skates, he hits, it's incredible. Just fucking watch this. And the guy can't do the things they want him to do because he's not that guy. So it's a mess.
I will add one thing to that, mostly because the person who was named in this question was Scott Morrow. And I will say I'll generalize it into all NHL, and then I will make a slightly more specific point about Morrow. I was watching Moneyball last night, right? And you're talking when they're talking to young Billy Beane and his parents. They're saying that your son is a 5-tool player, and when we're recruiting guys, we're hoping to get a guy with with 2 tools, and we're hoping to add a third. Most players in sports are like that they've got an area or two that they're really good at, and the teams that draft them are hoping to be able to develop them better in a couple of other areas. Very few prospects come to NHL teams or prospects come to MLB teams as really complete players. And of course, the irony in all of this is that they were totally wrong about Billy Beane. He was not a very good baseball player at the professional level at all. So I think there's part of it where you're saying, like, this guy is really good at X, and maybe he's pretty good at Y, but we're hoping to be able to develop some Z in him in order to get him to the point where we think that he's a quality player. And some of those guys just do not develop that. Z never develops. Y doesn't improve enough, even if they're really good at X. They just hit a wall. They're not capable of developing beyond that point. And there's some blame that you can lay at the feet of the team and the development programs that they have. And there's also blame that you can lay at the feet of just the player themselves. Blame only in the sense of, like, not everybody is capable of becoming an expert at everything. So I think that's part of it as well. The Scott Morrow specific part of it, I think this is just where, again, I'm heavy on the baseball references here, so apologies for, the Joes of the world who are just not as down with that. But there used to be...
Fine. It's not like I'm doing the podcast with you, so it's okay.
Right. There was a... who the fuck are you? There was like a common thought about a decade ago that if the Tampa Bay Rays called to ask about a pitcher in your system, hang up the fucking phone and figure out what you're doing wrong with that guy. Because the Rays were really good at identifying talent like that. I think that there's a bit of a skew in Carolina specifically, because Carolina, again, has played a specific way for a very long period of time now. And the guys that they are identifying, they're definitely identifying guys that they believe will fit into their system. I would just declare a moratorium if I were Chris Drury, or really just about anyone, on trading with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yep, agreed.
Beyond a few very clear high-end, like anybody would have drafted this guy in the first round kind of player, I would just not trade with the Carolina Hurricanes, because I think their evaluation rubric is just so remarkably different from other NHL squads. And with Morrow, I think we just have to assume that in general, teams saw offensive talent, and we're hoping that his defensive game would develop along with him. And so far, it just really has not, which leaves him in the position that he's in now.
I'm going to defend my boy for a second here, which you knew I was going to do. I think there's two things to keep in mind with this level of thinking. The first is the Rangers. Scott Morrow was not given a true opportunity at the NHL level this year, or last year, I guess, which is forgivable for a playoff team. When Adam Fox was hurt, there was zero reason why Morrow should not have been quarterbacking power play one and being given an opportunity to do something. Now, Mike Sullivan is not Alain Vigneault. There are things there with Sullivan, specifically historically, that he closes his eyes and generates really good defensemen. So there's probably things that I don't know, but I don't see any excusable reason for the way that the Rangers treated Scott Morrow this year. The other thing I will say, and this is an important thing that I think some of you need to remember, when you are trading for another team's prospect, you are always at a disadvantage. They know way more about this person than you do. And I am not suggesting that Carolina was looking to get out of the Scott Morrow business. I just think they were comfortable moving on from him. Probably
they were certainly willing to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't necessarily. It wasn't like I guess what I mean by that is they weren't dangling him and the Rangers came in and, swooped up and got him, right? The Rangers are trading K'Andre Miller. They got a first-round pick. They wanted another prospect. They wanted a prospect out of it. They got Scott Morrow. To your point, Carolina was willing to part with Scott Morrow, right? So, on some level, that should make you think, why are they so willing or eager, whatever? But I do think there's more to Morrow than what we've seen from him. His analytics show a guy who was not nearly as bad defensively as Mike Sullivan thought he was. The fact that he's still a New York Ranger today intrigues the shit out of me, because I kind of don't see a way that he gets through waivers. We've said that before, but I really don't see it with him, especially as a free lottery ticket for other teams. And I'm just not sure what the end result is there. But back to my point, you're always trading at a disadvantage when you're trading with another team for a prospect, which is why what the Rangers have done with this retool rebuild is so dangerous, because Baudouin in Utah, by all accounts, the Rangers got everybody loves him, great prospect. Morrow was a little hot and cold. I know Scott Wheeler really liked him, and I obviously am a huge Scott Wheeler fan. The Baudouin is just a different animal in a lot of respects, and I don't think anybody's suggesting that he's going to be this first line can't miss center, but there's a guy with middle six potential as a center, which is valuable. A fucking guy you'd love to have on your team. There's intangibles there that are a little bit easier.
Ceiling. Yeah.
Correct. That are a little bit easier to, manipulate at the NHL level. That being said, Utah knows a hell of a lot more about him than we do. So back to the point, yeah, you may walk away from this and be like, well, oh shit, now we know why they're getting out of this business. I'm not even necessarily suggesting we're there yet with Scott Morrow, but just remember that. Yeah. When you're trading for prospects, you are trading for a guy that the other team has intimate knowledge about.
True.
And to the point, let me just finish this because it's going to give you credit. To the point that Eric was making before about Braden Schneider, if it turns out that there were offers on the table that the Rangers did not take, shame on Chris Drury, because you had an opportunity to trade high on a guy and you didn't. And this is what happens when you don't.
Yeah. It's the Derek Brassard thing that you wanted to move him a year too early rather than a year too late. Let me just add two things to all of this. One of them is just to say that again, I'm looking at the hockeystats.com player card for Scott Morrow, and his projected WAR 66%. And again, I'm with you, as you know, I'm with you on they should have played him, especially as the power play quarterback when Adam Fox was out. 92% even strength offense, 9% even strength defense.
Yeah, I get it.
There really is just nothing that suggests that he is a competent defender. There is plenty that suggests that he is a very good offensive defenseman. But we've had this conversation before, so we won't belabor it. The other point on just because a team is willing to trade a prospect also, though, does not mean that they do not value them in any way. It is just it's a calculation internally of who are you absolutely not willing to give up? And if you're looking to add a player who is already a roster player to your team in order to improve it, you're going to need to be willing to either part with a roster player, prospects, or some combination thereof. So you're just making a calculation on we're less protective of this guy than we are of that guy. It doesn't mean, and I know you're not suggesting this, it doesn't mean that they are we know that this guy's going to be a dud, which is why we're fine with parting with him. It is just we value this as a fair trade. Back to my fundamental point about trading, right? You're conceiving of it wrong if you're looking to, quote, win every trade that you make. The idea is that both teams are supposed to get something that they think makes them better.
Correct.
You can be wrong about that in your calculus. You can be proven wrong about that, as the future unfolds. But that is the idea that you're pursuing, is that you both want to improve your team as a result of that. So just because Utah was willing to part with Baudouin does not mean that, he's a bum. Does not mean that he is, as some absolute fucking moron suggested, that he is like a fourth line center. That there's, I think, more to him than that for sure. And again, it's not to say just because he was traded that he's a washout as a prospect.
Also remember, in that instance, the return matters from the Rangers side too. The Rangers traded K'Andre Miller and got a first and a second round pick in Morrow. So Morrow is a part of that trade, but there's a lot of other shit that comes with that trade. Baudouin was packaged with Sean Durzi, sure, who's like a really, really good defenseman. Only a third round pick part of that. So the Rangers kind of go back to the Artemi Panarin trade, even though this will make people angry. Liam Greentree is the return on that trade. So obviously the Rangers really valued the player. I would imagine that in the instance of both of those, those are guys that the team didn't want to part with. In the case of Greentree, top prospect in LA's system, doesn't mean that he's like this incredible can't miss guy. He's just the top prospect in their system. And in the case of Baudouin, probably that's one of the top prospects in Utah's system.
And the evaluation too, from the Rangers' perspective, right, is if what we heard was correct, that it was either going to be Greentree or a first round pick. The Rangers are going there with the known entity rather than the lottery ticket. And we're back to the mystery box. Which, like we just said,
is a little dangerous.
Right? It is and it isn't, though, because you don't control where LA is going to finish in the standings and where that selection is going to be. You also don't control who is going to be on the board leading up to that moment in time. And it's a question of how much certainty versus uncertainty do you want in that equation. The certainty is taking the guy who was already in your system that, yes, they know a lot about, but you know a decent amount too, as opposed to one of potentially 10, 20, 30 different players that you could conceivably take at the point in time when that first round pick would come up. It's a question of certainty versus uncertainty to me. And I think it is reasonable to sometimes take the uncertainty part of it, to say we're going to take the lottery ticket, that we're going to take the draft pick. It is also perfectly reasonable, if you like the player well enough, to say we're going with the known quantity.
Yep, good. We milked that question. Next question.
This next question comes from someone named Charles Vidal. Question for the combination Rangers, Knicks, Yankees fans. If you could press a button and have James Dolan sell the Knicks and Rangers to buy the Yankees, would you do it? Assume that the Knicks and Rangers are purchased by generic rich hedge fund guys. The answer is, I pound that button into smithereens. Absolutely yes.
Yeah, I don't know enough, obviously, to kind of comment, but what I would say is what I've heard about, is it Hal Steinbrenner?
Hal Steinbrenner, yes.
Um, is that he's cheap, unlike his father. And Dolan has been very look, you can talk about the human being all you want, and I'm not going to get into that argument here. James Dolan, the Rangers owner, is a really good fucking owner.
Yeah.
Is willing
He's
to
willing
spend
to spend money.
Probably a little too loyal to his guys. Fine. You can make that argument. I'm not just talking about Chris Drury. Like, Glenn Sather was here far too long. But in the grand scheme of things, the Rangers are not making money-saving trades. They were sending Wade Redden down to Hartford before it was cool, when like that all $6.5 million was being eaten up in that cap space. You saved every drop of that. Like, the NHL changed rules around cap circumvention. I'm putting quotations around that because Vegas is allowed to do that every single year because of James Dolan. So, like, from my limited understanding of the Yankees seem to be a team that do not spend a ton of money and that are not willing to like go for it. And James Dolan's that guy.
Yeah, the only thing, and if people really want my thoughts on this, because I've already answered this question today in the conversation Chip and I had, is it's not that the Yankees don't spend a lot of money. They do spend a lot of money. It's that they haven't gotten a lot for the money that they have spent, and they aren't willing to spend into the stratosphere where you are subject to the luxury tax and revenue sharing. Like, everything has to work out in a certain calculation to keep them below a certain amount of expenditure. Like, they're still fourth or fifth in the league in terms of payroll. They're just a distant fourth or fifth behind a couple other teams, and they have no championships to show for it, which is what is supposed to really matter there. So for all the reasons that we've laid out, and for all the reasons that you can also hear if you go listen to the bonus episode that Chip and I did.
When does that go live?
It's already up.
You put it up? Well, okay.
Yeah, I already posted it. All right. 84 Jorts has this question. Eric, Joe has mentioned your dislike of playing defensemen on their offside, but I've never actually heard your take on it. Why? I personally do not have a dislike of playing defensemen on their offside. The point that I have perpetually made to Joe is not about my personal preference or desire. It is to remind him that NHL head coaches don't like doing that. And when the answers to roster quandaries involve, well, they could just move this guy over to his offside, that's all fun and great if we're talking about EA Sports NHL 26.
It's in the game.
It's not when we're talking about the actual New York Rangers or really most any other hockey team that is just never going to do that. So it's not a particular problem to me. It definitely is to NHL head coaches.
If I say something, I'll get in trouble, so I'm not going to say anything.
What are you're going to stand here and tell me that I'm wrong? Am I wrong?
I see. I didn't even say it yet, and you're already mad, so I'm not doing this. The kids will not see mommy and daddy fight at the table.
Chip 23. Two-part question. Who is the first coach fired this season, and who hires Tortorella to get a Golden Knights-like boost?
Well, I guess I need to eat crow on this, right? Because I have been proven completely wrong that I thought that Tortorella was a lock for going back to Vegas. Yes, unlike you, Eric, I'm man enough to admit when I'm wrong. This might even make it into the Joe was wrong column, which hopefully I can write tomorrow. So what coach is fired first? I think the question rolls into like, who's even remotely on the hot seat and who is... So teams that I'm thinking are... Obviously, Babcock is fine, right? There's not a ton of, like, Florida is not happening. Tampa Bay is not happening. Colorado's not happening. Colorado, maybe, I guess, if something, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I
Rangers,
don't think so.
Rangers, no. Islanders, no. Devils, no, right? They all have new situations, so that's fine. Carolina, obviously not. Pittsburgh, no. Philadelphia, no. Buffalo, no. Like, is Minnesota a hot seat if they lose in the first round of the playoffs?
Yeah, I don't think that would be the first one fired though. Like I think they have to they're going to be good enough to make the playoffs, and I think that's going to be more of a playoff result combination there. I think the answer to this question is Scott Arniel in Winnipeg.
Interesting.
Winnipeg, of course, had a President's Trophy season 2 seasons ago. They missed the playoffs last year. I don't know that they have improved their team enough, especially in a competitive Western Conference, to really get themselves back into that conversation. So I think it's Scott Arniel. I'm trying to talk myself into some of the other possible if the last couple of seasons, the Devils have just had absolute catastrophe seasons. I think if this season begins very poorly and they still have some of the problems they've displayed, it wouldn't shock me if Sheldon Keefe were gone. At some point, if the patterns keep repeating themselves, you got to do something, and firing the coach is the thing you do. Like they just hired a new GM.
Well, that's what I mean.
Not like they're going to fire the GM.
No, but the new GM piece is interesting because you can make the argument that he is building the team in his image and there hasn't been a ton of time to coordinate yet. And you may not be wrong. I just think Keefe is a little bit safer than Winnipeg is not a bad one. Toronto, obviously brand new situation, so nothing's going on there. I guess Philadelphia, in the sense that there just seems to be so much animosity between Tocchet and some of the main players on that team. And the problem is they overachieved last year. And Tocchet has like this aura around him that I can't figure out.
He is the best PR.
I just don't understand. I've never seen a guy at least Vigneault. Look, the Rangers media protected the fuck out of Vigneault. And if any of you are listening to this, you know I'm right. I was there in the trenches, bitches. I know you protected him. But I don't think fans, I think the wider league realized he fucking sucked and it was hysterical that he was the Rangers guy. Tocchet, I feel like, has a level of respect that I just don't understand. I've never seen someone earn it less. Vancouver was an absolute nightmare under him. He jumped ship at the right time, made the playoffs with Philadelphia, overachieved in their first round series to Pittsburgh, and then got their fucking shit wrecked against Carolina, who won the Stanley Cup, and I didn't think was particularly compelling.
Yeah.
So
I'll throw one other possibility out there. And I think part of this is I scroll through the list of NHL head coaches. There's either guys with a lot of tenure are typically where you would look for this, but the guys who have a lot of tenure are in situations where I think you and I would agree there's just no way they're going anywhere, right?
Yeah,
John
Buffalo's
Cooper's not going
happening.
anywhere, right? The other one I'll throw out there is Todd McClellan. This will be his third season in Detroit. I think there is enough crisis in Detroit that even though I don't think it would entirely be his fault if Detroit is not making the playoffs, it's not like he's a super compelling candidate, and you're going to have a new general manager that is coming into that team as well. I could very well see, but this is another one that I think would probably be a later season thing because their reputation has been late season swoons that have taken them out of playoff contention. So
yeah, also same argument as with New Jersey. New general manager comes in. If you're going to make the change, normally you make the change. That doesn't mean we're not having a different conversation.
Doesn't always, but yes.
In the summer.
Yeah.
Usually it's not that quick, though. Chip is like doing a gambling. Who's the first guy fired?
Yeah. So I'm going with Scott Arniel.
I think Arniel's probably the right answer. The only other wild card would be if Dallas is wildly out of a playoff spot or something, and they're looking to really kind of just juke things up, maybe. But I just don't see that. I would not put my money on that.
Also from Chip, and who hires Tortorella to get a Golden Knights boost?
Yeah. I don't know if you're going to get the same, the Golden Knights situation was kind of perfect for Tortorella.
Yeah.
Where Tortorella could look, he's not going back to Philadelphia, right? If that was a position that opened up. Pittsburgh, I doubt.
I don't know that there's a team that is of the teams that may find themselves mid-season or late season without a coach, that any of them are going to want to go down that road. I think the best possibility that Tortorella has to get a head coaching position is in the off-season heading into next season.
Sure.
With
Let
a
me ask
totally
you
new clean slate.
Let me ask you a different question.
Sure.
Forget the fact that Mike Babcock is Mike Babcock. Let's pretend that
Okay.
doesn't exist. Would Tortorella have been the worst option for Edmonton?
No, I don't think he would have been. I think he would have been a better option than Babcock.
Well, yeah, I don't want to compare him to Babcock, but like I have questions about whether or not Tortorella can get a team over the hump. Granted, I think what he did in Vegas was actually pretty impressive.
It was.
I think if Draisaitl and McDavid were looking for a guy who could just step in and really push them and fucking not care who was in the room and drive things around. I'm very, very... Now, I think when all that was going down, the playoffs were still happening, obviously, and Tortorella, I assumed he was going to get signed in Vegas again. But like that to me would have been a better fit for Edmonton if they just could have been a little bit more patient and you wouldn't have had to deal with any of this other bullshit.
Yeah,
so.
I agree. Also from Chip, which unsigned player do you want the Rangers to sign? I think there are only two answers that even remotely interest me.
Go ahead.
For this question. One of them is Eeli Tolvanen, who is has some deficiencies as a player, but I think he would be interesting enough as a potential ad. The other one is Patrik Laine. Like, I'm willing to take a flyer on an incentive-laden, bonus-structured contract that requires him to play a bunch of games before it becomes all that impactful. It is a high-risk, high-reward kind of play, but you actually mitigate some of the risk with the structure of the contract, and if it doesn't pan out, you stick him on LTIR and you just move on with your life.
I'll sign anyone to a one-year deal. Laine would be a perfect fit for me for a one-year deal. The only issue I have with Laine, and it's the same issue that
is the fact that he's never healthy.
It's not even that. Pretend that he is healthy. Pretend that he's a 40-goal scorer next year, whatever it may be. Maybe that's too much because obviously why wouldn't you want to bring that guy in? The Rangers are not in a position right now where they should be taking away power play opportunities and top 6 minutes from guys like Lafreniere and Perreault. And Laine coming in would do that. And that, while we think the Rangers are going to be better this year, and I do think the Rangers are going to be a playoff team, spoiler alert, my Joe was wrong column. Number one is that I thought the Rangers were going to be a playoff team last year, and they were not. I need to see growth out of the boys. And it's mainly Perreault and Lafreniere. And we've seen what Lafreniere has done being given some of the free reign that was taken away from him by Panarin. That's not a Panarin comment. That's a personnel comment. And I just don't know what another forward solves. I know Drury's out there looking for more, apparently, but I just don't know what that like you need to see Perreault in this type of an environment.
So, Joe, I can't. This is incredible. We have a question that was delivered in real time while we're recording this podcast. Okay. This is from my high school friend, Nathan, who just texted me to say, "Hi, longtime listener, first time caller. What tier do I subscribe to so that I never hear Joe utter the word catheter on the podcast ever again? As a bonus, I will contribute to a Kickstarter to ban the word lube as well."
We do have a Blueshirt Banter After Dark tier. So do we do a safe word tier?
But it's like the inversion of it. You're safe
tier
from the word. Yeah.
Correct. It's the safe word tier. So your friend Nathan is not a member of Blueshirt Banter then? He is not a paid subscriber?
He is not currently a paid subscriber.
Then his opinion is invalid to me, and I don't care about him at all. So next question.
A couple more questions here. Let's motor through these.
And since he's listening to this, catheter, lube, catheter.
From Chip, who would you rather have narrate the story of your life, Morgan Freeman or James Spader?
Probably Friedman.
Yeah, of those two, I don't know. James Spader would be pretty fun. Like James Spader's penchant for overacting really amuses me. So I'm going to go with that. Also, Schnitz and Gigs said Sam Elliott. I think that is also a really good one. I think the other honorable mention goes to Ron Howard, so that my life would sound like it's an episode of Arrested Development.
That this reminds me of the Family Guy scene where Peter's narrating his life.
Oh yes.
It's a great scene.
Yeah.
It's Mount Rushmore, man. Like, you're getting the best of the best there, so you got to do it.
Indeed. Chip is a closing question. I think we got 2 closing questions. Well, this is actually a really good one from Chip. The MLB trade deadline concluded, and Brian Cashman took questions and answered with platitudes and cliches. I ask you, which is worse? A GM who doesn't speak, like Drury, or a GM who speaks but either says nothing or gaslights the fan base?
I will answer this question. Can I just also add to the last question? Morgan Freeman
Sure.
just has a better voice.
Morgan Freeman does indeed have a better voice.
Joe looks at the clock, knowing that he needs to do the podcast with Eric. Crying to himself, he puts on his shirt and goes to the basement. What was the question? Do
you want Drury who doesn't speak, or do you want someone like
remember it.
Cashman who speaks and says bullshit?
It doesn't matter. It's the same fucking thing. You're getting the same result from both of them. And if nothing else, the reaction to Cashman proves that Drury not speaking is the same thing. He just doesn't have to fucking listen to it. These guys are not going to give you their plans. Let's not forget that a month ago, Pat Verbeek stepped up to the mic and was like, guess what? I'm matching any fucking offer that comes in for my players. And then Philadelphia was like, prove it. And he did, to be fair. But you didn't have to put yourself in that position. And he put himself in that position.
That's why it's one of those, like, don't write checks with your mouth that your ass can't cash. So I have an answer to this, which is not that I don't think it matters. I would rather have someone who says less than somebody who says more and creates problems by saying more.
Yeah, okay, that part I agree with, but that's not the question. Because Cashman didn't create a problem. He didn't make promises. He just basically said nothing.
Oh, we don't have enough time to litigate this now. Plenty of things that Cashman has said in the past have created problems.
Then I don't have enough context to answer the question.
Yeah,
I would tell you the way that Chip framed it, it sounds like the press conference Cashman gave yesterday or today, whatever it is, did as much as the 15-minute, like, very regulated session that Chris Drury did. It's the exact same thing.
Let's move on here. Sean Avery's acting coach: ranch or blue cheese in general, not just pizza. Pizza
First
is
of all,
the wrong item here. Wings,
jail. Putting ranch on your fucking pizza. All right. Well, there's various answers to this question. Let's go with wings. Go ahead, Eric.
I will eat either, but blue cheese is my preference.
Agreed. I will very rarely do ranch on wings, only if blue cheese is not available. Now, I will say the blue cheese has to be good blue cheese. Wings Over, you know what Wings Over is? It's a franchise that it's called Wings Over and then whatever town it's in. So I was introduced to it at Wings Over Hamden when I was in college at Quinnipiac. That was closed down. The rumor was they were selling drugs out of the restaurant. I don't know if that's true or not, but Wings Over.
Crack over Hamden.
Allegedly. Wings Over has the best wings you will ever eat in your life. And their boneless wings are full split breasts. And they have the best blue cheese, one of the best blue cheeses I've ever eaten in my life. So it's blue cheese on wings. It's blue cheese on salads for me if I'm going to do blue cheese on like that type of dressing on a salad. There are specific times that I want ranch. When I'm eating something that's herby, like I love dill. If I'm doing something like that, I want ranch. Fried green tomatoes, I want ranch. Something like that, I want ranch. In general, blue cheese. A wedge salad has to be blue cheese.
Blue cheese. I think I'm largely in agreement with you. Only perhaps a little soft in the sense that in most of those situations, I have a preference for one of the other, but I'm willing to accept the other one. It's not a hard line, more of a strong preference.
And if you have a Wings Over by you, you should look. I promise you, their sauces
are
incredible.
I've never heard of this before.
Their teriyaki is amazing. They do a Carolina barbecue that's like a mustard barbecue. I think it's a golden barbecue. It's so that sweet onion barbecue. It's awesome, and the chicken is like clean and delicious. They had one in Fairfield and it closed. I'm devastated.
I will look it up.
You should.
JD, the GM, asks, is there a weekly prize or annual award for asking more questions than Chip? Yes. The prize is you get to replace Chip as a writer at Blueshirt Banter.
Correct. You could replace Chip right now, actually.
Yeah, we'd be fine with that. And
question number somebody to fucking replace.
Question number 2. Blind date. Chip's imaginary sister or Chip's imaginary childhood girlfriend? Plot twist, they're actually the same person.
So the way that I was going to answer this question, because I have unsurprisingly been thinking about this for a long time. Have you listened to the episode yet?
No,
I
have not.
You need to listen to it just to. You don't even have to listen to the whole episode.
I will go find the spot.
Yes, just listen to the part where it happens. But my assumption is Chip's imaginary sister is the hottest woman to ever live in his mind. So, yes, fine, fair, it's the same person. If it were not the same person, it's his sister. His sister is the most beautiful, like Margot Robbie level hot in Wolf of Wall Street is his sister.
From Schnitz and Gigs, Fuck, Marry, Kill, Barbara Walters, Rosie O'Donnell, Chip's mythological sister.
I mean, you gotta marry Chip's sister. She's the total package.
I'm just gonna read JD the GM's answer to this. Fuck Rosie O'Donnell, taking the chance her girlfriend is hot and it ends up as a threesome. Marry Barbara for the money. Her and Rosie's voices are both painful, but Barbara is easier on the eyes. Kill Chip's sister, since she is imaginary and assuming her time is about up anyway.
Yeah, it's fine. We can that's an acceptable answer. We can move on from that.
I like it.
Awesome.
All right, we got 2 closing questions and about 10 minutes to answer.
All right.
First closing question, we'll go with 84 Jorts. Closing question, is butt, legs, or back?
Oh, butt, 1,000%.
No,
this is not even.
Is the butt part of your legs or
I misunderstood.
Your back?
I was going to say, like, legs and back are things that it's okay to be attracted to, but not over the butt. No, butt is much like a hot dog in its own category. It exists in its own plane of existence. I will not hear arguments against this. I could see in your fucking face that you're going to argue against this. I don't understand how.
I'm not. I just wanted you to think I was going.
Yeah, no. It's insane that you would categorize it that way. A butt is a butt. It's it. That's the end. It is not a leg, nor is it a back. Those are different body parts. That's why they have different fucking names.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
It's a great closing question, though. Thank you.
Closing question from Chip. You have to take a massive shit. Your 2 options are an outdoor porta potty that has been used frequently, and it's a 98-degree August day that smells awful, but appears clean. Or a stall in JFK that smells fine, but the toilet has someone else's leavings in it, the seat is covered with urine, and you can't clean it before use. Hey, I mean, you 2 asked for unhinged.
I mean, but again, yes, thank you. You're trying your hardest. This is not even a question. You deal with the smell to take the cleanliness.
Yeah. Agreed. Easy answer.
Even if I could clean the toilet seat at JFK, I'm not doing it. No. I can deal with the smell. I cannot deal with whatever else.
You can squeeze it out, especially if you have to take a massive shit. Like, That's the kind of thing you're evacuating pretty quickly there, right? Like you're done with the experience, hopefully in rapid order.
Yeah, you tried, Chip. You gave it the old college go. You did a bad job, though.
That's it.
BlueshirtBanter.com, $85 a year, get you all your ad-free access to the New York Rangers. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for listening. Leave us 5 stars. Leave us a nice comment. Say nice things to us. We enjoy when you do that. Facebook.com/BlueShirtBanter. I had to think about that for a minute. YouTube.com/BlueShirtBanter. BlueShirtBanter.com/ get ready for me, BlueShirtBanter. Eric, it's been wonderful. We bang this out again. To draw
almost an hour
and a half for you guys, like, you really should appreciate this. That is all. Eric, anything to add to the masses?
We labor and do all of this for you.
Mike is a whale. Bye for now.